It arrived in a box marked industrial cleaning supplies. Weight, 11 kilograms. Origin, Shanghai, China. Destination, a residential address in suburban Ohio. Contents according to customs declaration, sodium hydroxide, commercial grade. Routine, unremarkable. One of 47,000 packages processed through the facility that day. But this package was not cleaning supplies, and the address in Ohio was not a home. This is DEA Hunter, and this is the story of Operation Paper Dragon. The first indication of something wrong came from a postal inspector with 23 years of experience. She had processed millions of packages in her career, international shipments from every corner of the globe, commercial goods, personal items, legitimate business supplies, and occasionally something else entirely. She had developed an instinct for anomalies, a sixth sense that could not be taught in training seminars or written into procedural manuals. Something about this shipment triggered that instinct. Something subtle, something wrong. Weight distribution was off. Commercial cleaning supplies settle uniformly during transit. The granules or powders find their equilibrium. This package had density variations, hot spots where material had been deliberately compressed, cold spots where padding separated distinct containers. The kind of pattern you see with carefully packed laboratory chemicals, not bulk industrial products. She lifted the package, tilted it gently. The contents did not shift the way sodium hydroxide should. There was structure inside, organization, purpose. She flagged it for secondary screening. Her supervisor approved without hesitation. 23 years of experience earned that level of trust. X-ray analysis revealed vacuum-sealed containers inside cardboard dividers, precise spacing, professional packing materials, not the bulk packaging typical of industrial products destined for commercial use. This was precision packing, laboratory grade, the kind of care taken when contents are valuable, or dangerous, or both. The package was detained for chemical analysis. DEA specialists dispatched from the regional laboratory. What they found inside would launch a 14-month investigation spanning 3 continents and ultimately save thousands of American lives. 4-methylfentanyl precursors, specifically N-phenyl-4-piperdone, known in the trade as NPP, and 4-anilino-N-phenyl-4-piperdine, known as 4-ANPP, the 2 primary chemical building blocks for synthesizing fentanyl. 11 kilograms of precursors, enough to produce approximately 8 kilograms of finished fentanyl, 80 million lethal doses, street value exceeding $12 million. But this was just one package, one shipment, one thread in a web that stretched across the Pacific Ocean. The return address traced to a chemical supply company in Shanghai's Pudong district. Online records showed a legitimate business, licensed manufacturer, registered with Chinese authorities, exporting industrial chemicals to 43 countries worldwide. DEA International Liaison contacted Chinese counterparts through official channels. The response was cooperative but slow. Bureaucratic delays, jurisdictional complications. The investigation would need to proceed on American soil while diplomatic channels processed. The Ohio address was the immediate priority. Surveillance teams established observation within 6 hours of the package detention. 3 vehicles positioned at strategic angles. Agents rotated in 8-hour shifts. Cameras with telephoto lenses documented every arrival and departure. The property was a rental, single-family home in a quiet neighborhood. 3 bedrooms, 2-car garage, built in the 1980s. The kind of house that attracts no attention because it looks exactly like every other house on the street. Lawn was maintained by a landscaping service that arrived every Tuesday. Vehicles rotated regularly but not suspiciously. A sedan during weekdays, an SUV on weekends. Patterns consistent with normal residential use. Nothing to attract attention from neighbors who minded their own business in the way suburban Americans often do. Nothing to suggest the house was anything other than what it appeared. But thermal imaging told a different story. Heat signatures consistent with chemical processing equipment radiated from the basement, elevated temperatures in patterns that matched industrial laboratory configurations, ventilation patterns suggesting fume extraction systems operating continuously, power consumption 3 times normal for a residence of that size, confirmed through utility records obtained via subpoena. The electrical load alone was damning. No legitimate household use could explain consumption levels typically seen in commercial manufacturing facilities. This was not a home. This was a clandestine fentanyl laboratory hiding in plain sight. What concerns you more about the fentanyl crisis? The drugs themselves, the chemical supply chains that enable production, or the difficulty of stopping international trafficking? Consider that as this investigation unfolds. The DEA faced a strategic decision: raid the laboratory immediately and seize whatever drugs were present, or conduct extended surveillance to map the broader network. They chose patience, and that patience would pay dividends beyond anything they anticipated. Over the following 3 weeks, surveillance documented a sophisticated operation. The Ohio location was not a production facility, it was a receiving and distribution hub. Packages arrived from China every 4 to 6 days. Different return addresses, different declared contents, same chemical signatures when scanned. The precursors were repackaged at the Ohio location, divided into smaller quantities, shipped domestically to 7 different addresses across the United States: Michigan, Indiana, Kentucky, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Georgia. 7 satellite laboratories, 7 production nodes, each receiving the raw materials to synthesize fentanyl independently. DEA Hunter has covered many drug networks, but this model was different, decentralized, resilient, designed to survive the loss of any single node. The scale became clear as the investigation expanded. Each satellite laboratory was producing approximately 2 kilograms of finished fentanyl per week. Combined output, 14 kilograms weekly, 140 million lethal doses every 7 days, flooding into American communities. The distribution mapped to the overdose crisis with disturbing precision. The 7 states supplied by this network had experienced a 43% increase in fentanyl-related deaths over the previous 18 months. The correlation was not coincidental. Let me explain why precursor chemicals matter more than most people realize. Fentanyl synthesis requires specific chemical compounds. Without NPP and 4A-NPP, production is impossible. These precursors are controlled substances in the United States. Manufacturing, importing, or possessing them without proper licensing is a federal crime. But in China, regulation was inconsistent. Some precursors were controlled, others existed in legal gray zones. Manufacturers exploited these gaps. They synthesized compounds that were technically legal in China but could be easily converted to controlled substances upon arrival in America. The Shanghai company had perfected this arbitrage. They produced precursors that skirted Chinese law while providing everything needed for American fentanyl production. Their customer base extended far beyond the Ohio network. DEA analysis of shipping records obtained through international cooperation revealed the scope. The Shanghai facility was exporting precursor chemicals to 17 different networks across North America. The Ohio operation was significant, but not unique. Combined production capacity of all 17 networks, approximately 120 kilograms of finished fentanyl per week, 1.2 billion lethal doses annually, enough to kill every person in the United States 4 times over. This was industrial-scale death, manufactured overseas and assembled domestically. The investigation expanded accordingly. Operation Paper Dragon became one of the largest coordinated drug enforcement actions in DEA history. 14 field divisions involved, coordination with Customs and Border Protection, Postal Inspection Service, Homeland Security investigations, international partnerships with law enforcement in China, Canada, and Mexico. The timeline compressed as evidence mounted. The networks were aware of increased scrutiny. Shipping patterns changed. Communication protocols tightened. If the DEA waited too long, the operations would scatter and reconstitute elsewhere. 96 hours before planned distribution of the largest precursor shipment yet detected, the operation went active. Here is what was moving through the supply chain at that moment. A container ship had departed Shanghai 14 days earlier. Manifest declared industrial solvents and cleaning compounds. Actual contents confirmed through intelligence sources: 420 kilograms of fentanyl precursors, enough to produce approximately 300 kilograms of finished fentanyl, 3 billion lethal doses. The shipment was destined for the port of Long Beach. From there, it would be divided among the 17 domestic networks. Each would receive enough precursor to sustain production for 6 to 8 weeks. Street value of the finished product exceeding $450 million. Projected casualties if distribution succeeded: 12,000 overdoses within the first month, 2,400 deaths across 23 states. The container ship was still 3 days from American waters when the raids began. 0600 hours Eastern Time. Simultaneous execution across 11 states. Tactical teams positioned at primary and secondary targets. Communication channels synchronized. Medical units on standby. Hazardous material specialists prepared for laboratory environments where exposure to fentanyl powder could be lethal to first responders. The Ohio hub fell first. Flashbang grenades disoriented occupants. Tactical teams breached through front and rear entrances simultaneously. The element of surprise was total. Within 45 seconds, all 3 floors were secured. What they found inside confirmed everything thermal imaging had predicted. A fully equipped clandestine laboratory occupied the entire basement, processing equipment worth over $200,000, rotary evaporators, vacuum filtration systems, industrial-grade ventilation, temperature-controlled storage. 17 kilograms of precursor chemicals sat in labeled containers awaiting processing. 4 kilograms of finished fentanyl, packaged for distribution in heat-sealed bags, were ready for shipment. Documentation detailed production schedules, customer contacts, and shipping protocols. 3 subjects inside. No resistance. They understood the federal charges they faced. They understood the sentences awaiting them. Cooperation was their only option for reduction. All 3 would eventually provide testimony against the broader network. The satellite laboratories fell in sequence. Michigan, 2 kilograms of fentanyl, 3 subjects arrested. Indiana, 1.5 kilograms, 2 subjects. Kentucky, 3 kilograms, 4 subjects. Each location revealed the same professional setup, same equipment suppliers, same operational protocols, same training evident in laboratory procedures. This was not amateur drug manufacturing. This was a franchise operation. By 0900 hours, all 7 primary domestic locations were secured. 47 kilograms of finished fentanyl seized, 63 kilograms of precursor chemicals recovered, 28 subjects in custody. Combined street value over $70 million. But the container ship was still coming. International maritime law complicated intervention. The vessel sailed under Panamanian flag, Chinese ownership. The cargo was legally ambiguous until it entered American waters. Boarding in international waters required diplomatic authorization that would take days to secure. The DEA coordinated with Coast Guard assets. A cutter was positioned along the projected route, not to intercept, to observe, to document, to maintain continuous surveillance until the ship entered American jurisdiction. 72 hours of waiting. The ship maintained course. No indication the crew was aware of the operation unfolding on shore. Communications monitoring detected routine maritime traffic, weather reports, port coordination. Nothing suggesting awareness. The ship entered American waters at 0317 hours, Pacific time. Coast Guard boarding teams approached within the hour. The container was located on the 3rd deck, marked as industrial chemicals, sealed with customs lock that showed no signs of tampering. When agents cut the seals and opened the doors, they found exactly what intelligence had predicted. 418 kilograms of precursor chemicals, packaged for distribution, labeled with codes matching the domestic network's inventory system. Documentation in Mandarin with shipping instructions to 17 American addresses. The largest single seizure of fentanyl precursors in DEA history. What does 418 kilograms of precursors represent in human terms? Finished fentanyl production potential, 293 kilograms. Lethal doses, 2.9 billion. Projected overdoses prevented, approximately 11,000. Projected deaths prevented, approximately 2,200. These are not abstract numbers. These are parents who will see their children graduate, children who will grow up with their parents, communities that will not bury their neighbors. DEA Hunter documents these operations because the scale matters, because understanding the threat is the first step toward confronting it. The Shanghai company remained beyond immediate reach. Chinese authorities, presented with evidence of illegal precursor exports, initiated their own investigation. The facility was raided 6 weeks after the American operation concluded. 14 employees arrested, production equipment seized. the company's export license revoked. But here's what DEA Hunter must also report. Within 4 months of the Shanghai closure, 3 new precursor suppliers had emerged. Different cities, different corporate structures, same product, same customer networks. The demand for fentanyl precursors in North America had not diminished, only the supply chain had been temporarily disrupted. The 17 American networks were dismantled. 63 subjects faced federal prosecution. Sentences ranged from 10 years to life imprisonment. The physical infrastructure of production was destroyed, but the knowledge persisted. The recipes remained accessible. The demand from American users continued unabated, and new suppliers, both foreign and domestic, moved to fill the vacuum. Operation Paper Dragon achieved its immediate objectives. Massive quantities of precursors and finished fentanyl were removed from circulation. Thousands of lives were saved. A sophisticated international trafficking network was exposed and prosecuted. The investigation also revealed systemic vulnerabilities that remain unaddressed. Postal screening capacity is overwhelmed. 47,000 packages processed daily at the facility where this investigation began. Full chemical screening of every package is physically impossible. The inspectors rely on experience, intuition, and statistical sampling. Most packages pass without examination. International chemical regulation remains fragmented. What is controlled in America may be legal elsewhere. Manufacturers exploit these gaps. They modify molecular structures to evade specific prohibitions while maintaining functionality. The law perpetually lags behind chemistry. Demand drives supply. 63 people were prosecuted in this operation. Millions of Americans continue to struggle with opioid addiction. Treatment capacity remains insufficient. Prevention programs remain underfunded. The root causes of the crisis persist. This is the complete picture that DEA Hunter presents. Victory and limitation. Success and ongoing challenge. Lives saved and lives still at risk. The postal inspector who flagged that first package received a commendation. Her instinct, developed over 23 years, had initiated an investigation that prevented over 11,000 overdoses and saved approximately 2,200 lives. One person, one decision, one moment of attention in a facility processing 47,000 packages daily. That is how interdiction works, not through perfect systems, through imperfect humans doing their jobs with dedication and skill, through experience that cannot be automated, through instincts that cannot be programmed, and through the understanding that every package stopped, every laboratory dismantled, every network disrupted represents lives that will continue. The precursor supply chain from China continues to evolve. New shipping routes, new concealment methods, new supplier networks. The chemistry of fentanyl synthesis cannot be unlearned. The demand cannot be legislated away. But operations like Paper Dragon demonstrate that interdiction remains possible, that international cooperation can achieve results, that the flow of death can be interrupted even if it cannot be permanently stopped. 11,000 overdoses prevented, 2,200 lives saved, one investigation, one package, one inspector who trusted her instincts. This has been DEA Hunter, Operation Paper Dragon, the precursor pipeline exposed. What surprised you most? The scale of the Chinese supply chain, the sophistication of the domestic production network, or how a single flagged package led to the largest precursor seizure in history? Share your thoughts below. How should international chemical regulation be reformed to address precursor trafficking? What role should postal services play in interdiction? The chemicals were flowing, the laboratories were producing, the deaths were mounting, and then one package was stopped. One package, 11,000 lives. Subscribe for more operations. Share this story. Follow DEA Hunter for the investigations that protect your community. Because somewhere right now, another package is being shipped, and awareness is the first line of defense. Stay vigilant, stay informed, stay alive. DEA Hunter, following the chemicals that kill.